Welcome back to Lifting with Lions. My dog wanted to do the introduction. Let's see. No, he's not going to do it, but he tried. So we're back with another great episode. I mean, to be honest, I think every episode's great. That's why I say that every time. But this one's cool because this time we have Tenny's wife, Sidney, in here, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about the keto diet that she's been on. We talked a little bit last time. And so welcome, Sidney.
Hello.
Hello. And welcome, Tenny. He's here as well.
I am most times.
Yeah, he's almost always here. There was once he wasn't.
Yeah, that was on the Michaela's episode.
Yeah, and Michaela's here too, but
that was
she's
the Michaela and Jared episode.
She's doing her more important job, which is dog taming.
Which, surprisingly enough, not surprisingly, the first episode we had a woman on became our most popular episode. So.
Yeah, believe it.
So let's try it again.
Girl power. Yeah, we're just taking what works and running with it. Yep. People are like, I'm sick of marketing. These guys. Yeah. So, Tenny and Sidney are sharing the mic right now, and so I'll just have Tenny kind of roll with it. I know you came prepared with a few questions you wanted to ask.
Yeah, like we were talking about last week, we went over keto a bit, and we just want to make it clear every time we talk about something like this, we are obviously not experts in keto, but we put in a decent amount of research on it, and as much as I don't like to base anything off personal experiences and stuff for a wider population of people, it is good to see people's experiences so you kind of have a baseline on what's possible with something. And so with Sidney here, we wanted to kind of touch base with her and see how it's worked for her, especially since a lot of people are in Sidney's position where they've tried a bunch of stuff and some stuff just works better than other things. And that's not the case for me. Pretty much no matter what I try, it seems to work. But Jared, I mean, you know that pretty well. You were trying a bunch of different ways to put on weight and it never seemed to work until this method that we've been doing. So you kind of know the flip side of that experience.
Exactly. I think we should take a moment for Sidney to describe her experience, if you'd be willing, just on what things you have tried and how you came to keto.
Yeah. I guess I could explain how I got to this point first, probably.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So
actually.
I've always been an athlete my entire life. I'm 24, but like all through middle school and high school, I was into competitive mountain biking. And so I was always in pretty good shape, and I never really had an issue keeping down my weight. I could basically eat whatever I want because I just did cardio all the time and I was young. But ever since 2 years ago, I got into a mountain biking accident during one of my races, and I wasn't able to do any physical exercise for about a year, pretty much without having pretty severe migraines and like physical reactions because of the brain trauma that I had. And it was 2 weeks before me and my husband got married that I got that brain injury. So our lifestyle kind of changed and I couldn't work. So I was just home all the time. And I gained a significant amount of weight to the point where I was weighing the most that I have in my entire life. And I was feeling really sad and depressed and stuff. And so my husband started trying to help me to lose it. But I tried doing things that I had done before, like a significant amount of cardio, as well as trying to eat just like cleaner in general. And that didn't work. I was just still gaining weight for some reason. And it just like caused like even more depression because I was still trying to work on like other things in my life. And so we tried the Whole30 diet, and I can see where a lot of people would have a good experience with it, and we liked it for like the clean eating aspect of it and the zero sugar aspect of it, zero added sugar at least. But I just remember, like, I just got so sick. I wasn't eating enough calories, I don't think, in the diet. So I just didn't last very long. Like, we got through the whole diet, but it just wasn't good. I felt really sick, and I still hadn't lost any weight in which Whole30 isn't for losing weight, but it's kind of a side effect of people eating cleaner or whatever. So then we just tried like really intense calorie counting, and I was eating like as little as I possibly could on a day-to-day basis and trying to exercise a few times a week as much as I could. And that it was like working. It worked at first, but it plateaued like really, really quickly after only a few pounds. And I wasn't seeing like the results. I wasn't feeling very much better, but I was like working really hard on like the calories and eating better and stuff. And it was just really, really disappointing and disheartening really fast because I didn't see any results.
And I think one of the big things, just butting in here, that helped when we were doing Whole30 was it didn't necessarily get us any big results on weight loss or anything like that. But I think the biggest effect for us was that it helped us develop a really strong sense of discipline. So we were able to really be accountable for what we were eating and what we were putting in the shopping cart. And because we were being careful during our shopping, we weren't able to binge on unhealthy food at home. And so it helped us get a lot of discipline that made it possible to do something like keto successfully now. So if we hadn't done something like Whole30 and really learned to discipline ourselves in that aspect, I don't know how successful keto would have been when we got to that point.
Yeah.
And one thing that led to keto inevitably was kind of noticing your sensitivity towards gluten products. And you kind of want to mention, do you want to kind of talk about how gluten has been a factor in your diet on and off and how that kind of helped lead us to the decision to try keto?
Yeah. So I, like, for a good majority of my life have gotten pretty severely sick after eating, like, really high, like flour products, basically anything with gluten in it and stuff. But I never contributed it to gluten just because I think that like I didn't really have a huge family history of other people with gluten issues, and I don't know, that's like the last thing you want to get rid of is bread in your life because it's delicious.
Bread is life.
Because bread is great. But like we tried a few times, and part of Whole30 as well is that you have to get rid of gluten and wheat products and stuff. And we noticed that during Whole30 that I felt significantly better. I wasn't getting stomach aches and having bathroom emergencies as often, which is terrible. And so anytime I went off of gluten for a significant amount of time, anywhere from 2 weeks to several months, was that I just like overall felt better. I had more energy. I didn't get sick as often. And I just had like a generally better health experience, I guess.
Yeah. A health experience.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to experience your health. I mean, honestly, though, it sounds like a joke, but I feel like a lot of times you don't notice a difference in your health until it gets worse.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, you do things to be more healthy, you work out, you cut things out of your diet, you eat more healthy, and you don't see significant differences until you go back and stop working out and eat the way you used to, and then all of a sudden you feel like garbage.
Right.
And so that's cool that you noticed it.
And I think one of the other things that was important to point out is that it wasn't easy to notice that it was gluten causing those things. We didn't realize that it was gluten for a really long time.
Yeah.
Because like we talked about last episode, when you have a diet that you're getting really good effects from, something like keto, and it's having results, it's hard to tell if it's because you're eating high fat and low carbs, or if it's because you eliminated added sugars, or if it's because you're eating different kinds of fats in your diet now. And so it's really hard to pinpoint exactly what is the primary factor. So it wasn't for a long time that we realized that it probably was gluten, just through kind of elimination and focusing in on one ingredient at a time and seeing how it reacted with the body. And so it was not easy to figure that out. But I would say once we figured it out, it was something we really considered when we were trying to find a better solution for weight loss is that whatever we want to do, we want it to be something that we can maintain. So it's not just a short-term unhealthy diet where you just lose as much as you can and then put it back on.
Yeah.
But we wanted it to be sustainable, but we also wanted it to not just be about weight loss, but to be about overall health as well. And Sidney really wanted to feel healthier in her day-to-day life and just have more energy. And so whatever we did, we wanted it to kind of revolve around focusing on health more than just weight loss as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I've got to ask then, what led you to keto out of all of the diets that are out there?
I think that Tenny came across an article about it a few months ago because he just does that in his spare time. He just reads all sorts
Just
of
looks
health
stuff up and learns about how to be healthy.
Yeah.
Crazy. You'd think he was one of those guys that ran a podcast or something.
There's
with the way he
like
looks
that.
things up.
And I just it was the middle of May. And like summer was coming up and like that stress of wanting to look good and feel
Get
good
the
for the
bikini body
summer.
ready.
Yeah. Like I just had an emotional breakdown, honestly, because I was so depressed about like my body image, and like you and me have talked about body image before in differing aspects, Jared, but like it was just one of those moments where you feel like a huge surge of motivation to try something new or to try something different to make yourself look the way that you want to in your mind. And I was talking to Sidney and I was like, I just don't know why it's not working. Cause at that point we were like 5 or 6 months into me eating like as little calories as I could and still function. And I still felt like crap. And like, it was just really sucky because I felt like I was trying so hard, but nothing was happening. And so Tenny just brought up and was like, well, maybe we should try keto, which is like a high fat, extremely low carb diet. I mean, there's different variations, but we should just try it and see if it works because there's science behind it. Like when you go into ketosis, your body starts burning fat rather than the carbs that we generally put into our bodies on a day-to-day basis because generally people have pretty high carb diets.
Oh yeah, tons of sugars in our diet,
Yeah.
tons of carbs. Mm-hmm. Man, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, which I never thought of myself as someone who really ate a whole bunch of sugar. Like I've had periods in my life where maybe I did go on a little bit of a binge where I drank a lot of soda or,
Oh yeah,
but in general, like me and Tenny tried not to eat a whole lot of sugary foods, tried not to eat dessert a lot, tried not to drink soda a whole bunch. And so like it was kind of I didn't think that keto was going to work. I went into it thinking like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but like it's just going to be another thing that doesn't work for me. And stuff.
I get that. I totally relate to that. Like Tenny said, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, like, okay, I'll try it, but that's not how my body works.
Yeah.
It just doesn't put on weight.
Yeah.
Or now you're like, it just doesn't lose weight. It just doesn't
Yeah.
work. So, but I did want to back up just a little bit. You kind of hit on it already, but there's actually a real emotional impact on number one, your body image, wanting to have the best body that you can, and number two, frustration coming from not seeing a change.
Right.
And I don't know if you or Tenny want to speak to that at all, but we can be vulnerable here. How did that really make you feel?
I think that as a person, you want to feel attractive.
Yeah.
In general, even if it's not for someone to feel attracted to you, you want to feel as though you're viewed as an attractive person. I think that that comes in both physical and mental, emotional, and personality ways that we want to be perceived as good, as like attractive, as desired, I guess, in a way. Yeah, and that's where a lot of our worth comes from, is how we're perceived by other people, I think. And I think, especially having been a former pretty highly competitive athlete, but now I wasn't even able to like ride my bike as far as I could without like dying from exhaustion, because my body was 80 pounds heavier than it had been when I was doing those things. So I think it was both a physical thing, because I wanted to be attractive, especially to my husband. And in my mind, I wasn't, because I didn't feel good. Like physically, I didn't feel good. Mentally, emotionally, I didn't feel good. Because I think that every aspect that makes us who we are contribute to each other, and they affect each other. So when your physical body isn't 100%, then your mental, emotional, and spiritual self is not 100% either. And I think it just creates like this vicious cycle.
Yeah, it's all a balance. It really is. And we've talked about it a teeny bit, but mostly we've hit on the balance between like diet and exercise. But you're totally right. Like when you're not feeling good about yourself, then it really hinders a lot of other aspects about you, even if it's just your physical body. And I think a lot of people can really relate to that.
Well, and I think something that a lot of people don't really realize, especially when there are people who have never been in a position of gaining a ton of weight before themselves.
Yeah.
It's hard to empathize with it always, because you see it as, oh, well, you can just find self-worth however you look. You can always find yourself beautiful. You can always be happy with who you are no matter what.
Yeah, it's the whole like love your body movement no matter the size.
Yeah, but what people don't always realize is that as our body weight increases, there's a lot of endocrine changes in our body. There's a lot of hormonal stuff that goes on, and things change with insulin, things change with chemicals in our brain like serotonin. And so even just gaining a dramatic amount of weight can make you depressed on a chemical level as well. So weight gain, weight loss really quickly, all that stuff, it can mess up with your hormones as well. And so it's a lot more than just finding self-image.
Yeah.
A lot of it is that there's just so many different angles that you're being hit with ways to make you feel abnormal. And when you felt a certain way for so many years, when you're put out of that zone, you just feel completely off in your whole life. So losing weight is not just achieving a body image thing. It's really about trying to get back to a balance of where you were and what you're used to as well.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us about your experience once you started keto. How did you feel? Was it difficult?
I think anytime you start a new anytime you start like a new habit or lifestyle or anything that you're doing consistently, like it's going to be difficult regardless. So yeah, it was hard. It was a little bit easier because my husband chose, especially the first 2 weeks, to eat keto mostly with me as well. Because with keto, you have to count your carbs like to the single gram, so the first 2 weeks we started with cutting down to 50 grams, which at first when I thought about it, I was thinking of carbs being, sugary things, bread and stuff, but I didn't realize like how many carbs were in a bell pepper or how many carbs were in a tortilla chip that was made from corn flour. So it was really difficult to try to figure it out and to understand it at first. And like we were looking at labels before, but this made us look like really intensely at labels, down to counting every single gram of everything that we were eating to make sure I was getting enough nutrition from the things that we were eating, but also hitting those fat grams that I needed to be eating and hitting those as low carbs as possible. And it turned out that I couldn't eat like anything that we were eating before. So it sucked really bad at first. And we tried a bunch of really weird recipes that we found on the internet, and some of those were really terrible. And when you're switching to a really high fat diet as well, especially with, I think, culturally, it's kind of perceived that you need to be eating low fat. Like everything's marketed towards, this is low fat this is low fat that, but you're having to go out specifically and buy high fat yogurt But it's hard to fight that mentally, I guess, where you're eating fat because you're trying to lose fat, but you're eating fat, but they're not the same fat. But culture's kind of made it confusing.
We talked a little bit about that last time, Tenny, right? Yeah, about how it's kind of been a cultural misunderstanding because of, what was it, like the 80s? They started believing that eating fat led to fat.
Yeah, and it's just an easy way to grasp things. It's a lot easier than breaking it down into trans fats and polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. It's a lot easier to just say fat is bad.
Yeah.
And so people often, especially when it comes to nutrition, you can only market stuff in so succinct of a manner in order to get an effective marketing campaign across. And so putting fat-free on yogurt is a lot more appealing than putting this contains polyunsaturated fats, because it's just jargon at that point.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of gotten to the point where people see fat and they think, oh, fat is bad because fat-free is good.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously there's some nefarious intent behind it, because some companies do it just because they're taking advantage of that cultural inhibition.
Right.
But then other people, it's just, coincidence. We just label things as fat-free because sometimes fat-free is good.
Yeah.
But we also happen to not want fat in a lot of instances. So I don't know. It's just a lot of complication to it. But yeah, the fact of the matter is that it's not so simple as fat is bad or fat is good. It depends on where your situation is. It depends on what type of fat it is. And the hard thing to say is that if you're in a position where you're really trying to improve your health, you really do just have to sit down and look at the complications of it and figure out the details.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to take the time to figure out the types of fat. It's worth it at that point than to just rely on the simple stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would think it's simple enough to say, well, I'm just not going to eat fat. But honestly, fat is extremely, like the right amount of fat and the right kinds is extremely important.
Extremely important. And another thing that people don't realize is that obviously we have different calorie contents per grams for the macronutrients, right?
Yeah.
We have 4 calories in a gram of protein and a gram of carb, but we have 9 in a gram of fat.
Right.
So you think if you eat a lot of fat, you're going to get fat because you have way more calories, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of fatty foods are super satiating. So you get full really quickly. And they're very rich tasting, so you can't eat as much in the first place.
Yeah.
And like Sidney said, I tried to help her as much as I can going into keto by kind of doing it with her. So I did kind of a modified version where I've been eating really high protein still. And while I'm doing that, I've pretty much eliminated a ton of my carbs down to the same level that Sidney has. I eat lettuce wraps with her when we go out to restaurants. I eat all of the same gluten-free products as she does. I pretty much purged everything non-keto out of our house and pantry.
That helps a lot.
To make it easier on her, because I figured if I can do this with her for 6 months, I mean, it's going to help her out a ton. So why not? And I mean, my biggest experience from it has just been that fatty food is so filling. And it doesn't matter if we're eating cheese or if we're eating some sort of meal with a lot of heavy cream in it. It just fills you up so quickly that you end up eating a lot less calories than if you were to eat rice. Because let's say you have rice and you're eating 2 cups easily with a meal before you even realize it, when you would have eaten only a couple small pieces of like fried mozzarella or something.
Oh man, you see Italian people with their pasta, they can eat so much of that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that a lot of people like to look at it and say, oh, there's complex carbs and there's simple carbs, and as long as I'm not eating candy or soda, I'm good. But again, it really varies person to person. And while that may work for a lot of people, and you'll see plenty of skinny Italians, I've met hundreds, it's not like all Italians are going to get fat from it. It's that some people are more sensitive, and that it's a lot more difficult to, I think, change what you're used to. So I can see it being a lot harder in a country like Italy, where you're used to those really high carb diets, to do something like keto, where it's so against the norm.
Yeah.
What you're eating. If you tell someone, hey, I don't eat any carbs at all anymore, I mean, they're going to look at you like you're crazy in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
So,
and my point of that
difficult.
wasn't to like
No, I totally
say that
mean what
you're
you're saying.
fat if you eat a lot of carbs. I'm just saying it's easy to eat a lot of them.
No, totally. No, I was just using that to tie back into the fact that like a lot of people see it as just kind of that simple explanation again.
Yeah.
And how there's a lot more that goes into it than just carbs good, fat bad. Is that some things fill you up more than others, and that can have effect. Different types of fats have different effects on your hormones that make you feel different ways. So keto is really a lot more complicated than you would expect going into it, and we've learned that firsthand.
Yeah.
I think along with like talking about that, you know, how Italians might be used to eating a lot more carbs or whatever. I think when you're looking for a diet that works for you, you need to think, like Tenny said, about your personal body and how it's going to do. But I also think that you need to find something where you can live the life that you were living before in an adapted way, right? So we still make a lot of the same meals that we made before. We didn't do this when we first started keto, but then we were like, oh, well, we can just adapt those recipes, you know? So there was a couple pasta dishes that we really, really loved that we already had gluten-free. So they were already a kind of lower carb, but they were nowhere near what they needed to be for keto. So then we like researched making pasta out of, you know, cauliflower and pasta out of zucchini noodles.
Zoodles.
Yeah, zoodles.
Good stuff. But it's
And
very wet, man.
Yeah.
That stuff gets all over your plate.
Cauliflower gnocchi.
Yeah.
Cauliflower gnocchi. That would be good.
Gnocchi. Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh, man. I love cauliflower rice.
Yeah,
Try it if
we've
you haven't
used
tried it.
cauliflower
Yeah.
rice a lot. We've also made cauliflower mashed potatoes.
Huh. That's just mashed cauliflower, though.
Yeah, it's just mashed cauliflower with garlic and butter, basically.
Cauliflower mashed potatoes.
I know. You know, like I think that you have to find things that you're going to like. I mean, some people like Tenny. I could give him dog food, and if he knew he was getting the nutrients that he needed from it, he could just straight up eat it.
Oh, he's done it. The time he got locked in his garage for a week, and all he had was dog food.
I just looked on the package, and I was like, 30 grams of protein. That's a protein shake.
Yeah, but I'm not a person that can do that. I've historically been a pretty picky eater. I've gotten better since I've been married to Tenny.
Oh, thank goodness. The world could use less picky eaters.
But I'm definitely not the kind of person that can just
eat dog food,
eat whatever I want. And I think that's one of the reasons why I had such a hard time with like meal prepping and calorie counting before, is because I was just eating like a small amount of rice and a piece of plain chicken like every single day, and I was going crazy because I just got so sick of it and I just couldn't do it. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people quit diets or like lifestyles, is because they can do it for a short period of time, but then like, especially if they don't see results paired with they don't like how it tastes, then like it's not going to last. It's not going to be something that you commit yourself to.
Yeah.
And kind of speaking on how sustainable it needs to be, that goes along with the weight loss as well. Is that something we've really tried to do, is balance the weight loss? Because as Sidney will talk about a little, almost as soon as we started keto, once she hit that first week and a half point where we realized she was probably in that ketosis, I mean, the weight just started dropping off like dramatically, and it stayed at a pretty downward slope for 14 weeks. But we've really had to focus on keeping a balance on how quickly we're losing weight, because we never want to lose too much weight and also have detriment to our muscles and just all the system balances in our body. So we've been trying to keep it at no more than like 2.5 pounds a week of weight loss, but that's hard to do when you're also focusing on doing the keto. So there's a lot of balance to find, but you want to do it sustainable, so that when you do hit your goal, you haven't lost the weight in a way that you're going to gain it back, because it was just so extreme when you did it.
Yeah. All right. So in the interest of time, I would love to pick these conversations back up. Hopefully we can have you back again really soon, Sidney. I just want to skip to the end here. How have you felt now that you've been on the diet for a while? What progress have you seen?
Well, it was pretty crazy. I didn't think it was going to work. This is kind of like, I was super, super skeptical because nothing had worked for what seemed like a really long time. And so in December of 2020, I weighed around 216 pounds. And after 5 months of strict calorie counting and exercising, I'd lost like 6 to 8 pounds ish and stuff. But I wasn't feeling any different, and like whatever, I was just not feeling great. I started keto. We didn't, unfortunately, I wish we had, but we didn't weigh me when I started keto because I didn't want to get on the scale because I was just like so depressed.
Yeah, I understand
about it and stuff. So I didn't want to go anywhere near a scale or measurements or anything. But like I kind of could feel a little bit of a difference like 2 weeks in, and I'd lost 10 pounds. Not after 2 weeks, but like 3 weeks, I'd lost I was down to under 200 for the first time.
Yeah, it was hard to tell exactly how much we lost because we had like a 6-week gap where we had no measurements.
Yeah.
So we didn't really know our baseline. But it was about 208 at the beginning of the year. And
Not the beginning of the year. That was in March.
In March, yeah, 208 in March. And then when we took our first measurements, you were down to like 196 or something. Mm-hmm. And so we don't know exactly how much we lost that quickly, but I mean, that was more weight loss than we'd seen in the past 2 years combined.
Yeah.
So it was massive. And it was just one of those good days where Sidney was finally feeling just kind of up to going on the scale. She said, I just want to step on it just to see. Mm-hmm. She got on and was just mind blown.
Yeah.
Super, super excited.
Was that the point that you texted us?
Yeah, I think I don't know if I texted or if I called you guys, but
I think Tenny called and then...
Yeah, because I was crying because it was just crazy that, like, I mean, I had bounced up and down over the last, like, year and a half, 2 years between, like, 216 down to, like, 209 and then back up and then back down and stuff. And, like, I'd finally broke 200 and that was, like, it was just, like, so mind-blowing to me, and I was just like so excited and emotional and stuff. And I was still skeptical though. Like I was excited, but I was like still skeptical. But I mean, today now I've just broke down into yesterday. Actually, I broke into the 170s. I'm at 179 now.
Wow.
So I mean, it's been, I don't know how many that is over the last
14 weeks.
Yeah. I've lost, I mean, even if we just took the benchmark 2.5, 3 weeks into keto at being at 196 down to 179, that's a pretty significant drop after nothing had been working.
Oh, yeah.
For so long.
After such a huge plateau. That's amazing. And how do you feel?
I feel really good. It's been crazy. I've started trying to do things that I was able to do before. And it's just like it's night and day difference. I mean, it's a lot of weight. You don't think of it. I mean, when you're in the moment, like I still feel like I need to lose like so much weight to get to where I want to be,
right?
Physically and stuff. But just being able to see the difference in my endurance and like in my emotions, and because like I said at the beginning of the episode where I was talking about how your physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual being, like they're all interconnected. Like I feel like I'm better overall.
Yeah.
And all of those things because I just feel better and my body can do things.
Which is crazy because I know for a fact we're not going to get into it right now, but your life has not been easier.
No.
not at all. It's been significantly worse.
Yeah.
But you've been happier.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. I think that's amazing. I mean, literally last night you ran over to our house and was it last night? I think. Yeah. And you're like, man, you don't realize how much 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Like being 40 pounds down makes a difference when you're running.
Right.
Like carrying 40 pounds makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. We're really excited for you.
Thanks.
Is there anything else you wanted to hit before we wrap this thing up?
I don't think anything today. I think we definitely want to have Sidney on again though and talk about kind of the details of what has made keto difficult for her and how keto has been made easier. So things like learning about dietary fiber and certain types of meals that seem to make her more full than others, eating at certain times during the day, because there's been a lot of stuff that we've had to kind of tweak and work around to make it a more sustainable diet and more enjoyable too.
Yeah.
Because there have been times where it's been kind of miserable for her when it's just either repetitive food or honestly it sucks. Because you go on these health blogs, especially for like keto blogs and stuff, and like top 3 biggest pet peeves in the world for me is when you go to a recipe site. I don't know if this is just from my culinary background where I just want the recipe and that's it. I don't care about anything else. But I hate to see like a 40-page memoir from someone about their mother's first time introducing her to a certain type of salad before I get the recipe.
Yeah. No,
And
I love those. I read through the whole thing. Yeah, definitely.
Man, but jokes aside, that's been the worst part of keto for me is reading those recipe blogs.
Sounds awful, man.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of stuff that we've had to kind of work around and try to find ways of making it more enjoyable and just more reliable. And so Sidney has a lot of insight on that she can talk on next episode for sure.
Lifting with Lions is not about making your life suck. It's about making it better.
And you can be assured that if we ever put recipes on our website, it'll just be a recipe.
Either that or it'll be the longest description you've ever read.
With no recipe. It'll just be a 20-page scroll with nothing at the bottom.
Exactly. Because that's how we do it here at Lifting with Lions. Well, Sidney, thank you so much for being here with us. Actually, the polls just came in. They said they're sick of Tenny and I. They said they want an episode with you and Michaela together.
This came in a couple months ago.
Yeah, exactly. Before you'd even been on here. And so we're gonna have to set up an episode where where both of you can get on and talk about whatever you two talk about. Actually, don't talk about that. Talk about something else that you two talk about.
Thanks for having me.
You're
it was
welcome.
fun. I'll see you next time.
All right. Well, this is Lifting with Lions, and like she said, we'll see you next time.